macho man. I'm a spicy type of guy. I know I'm going to get comments about it. It's really hot in this kitchen. What can I do? Hey Warriors, it's me, Martin Salama, the architect of the Warriors Life Code, here again in my kitchen again, because it seems to be you guys like when I'm in the kitchen. So I'm going to cook Friday night, part of Friday night dinner now. I'm wearing my gloves because I'm going to be spicing up a roast. I'm going to be making a brick roast. This is a brick roast. I don't know what they call it in different parts of the world, but in our community they call it a brick roast. I'm going out of the screen so I can get a couple of pot holders for when I need them, but I'm going to make a brick roast, and there's an interesting story about the brick roast that I'm going to get into. But, you know, lately I keep on hearing about this word vulnerability, and I'm so happy to hear about it, and people keep talking about it, and I said, you know what, I think I did a blog on it, I did a small video on it on Facebook. I said, you know what, I'm going to do one now on here on my video, a longer video about it. So we're going to get into that in a minute. But you know what I'm going to do is I'm putting in some onions that I'm going to let saute for a while. And then after a while of sauteing, now what I'm doing, just so you know, with my gloves on, it's not hot, I'm separating the onion rings so that they cook easier, faster, and they get apart. And it seems that every time I've made this recipe, I've added more and more onions to it. I've changed the recipe here a little bit, there a little bit. So let me tell you a little bit about the recipe, and then I won't forget to get into vulnerability. So in the summertime, on Thursday night, I went out for dinner with a couple of friends of ours, husband and wife, Alana and Jack. And Alana was like, so what are you making for dinner tomorrow night? Because she knows I'm the cook in the house. I said, you know, I haven't figured out. I'm thinking about it. She goes, why don't you make something simple for a change? You're always doing crazy things. Make something simple. Make a brick roast that I make very simple. I said, okay, how do you make it? She goes, I go to the and then I come home and I take the spice and I put it all over the brick roast, and then I just stick it on top of some onions, and I stick it into the oven for a little while, for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. 375. I said, okay, send me the recipe. She sends it to me, whatever. So now I go, where do you get this? She goes, there's a butcher. You know the butcher on, in the summertime, we lived out by the Jersey Shore in the area called Deal. And there's a lot of little towns around it. Whoops, you go back in there. A lot of little towns around it. One of them is called Oakhurst. And that's actually where we've gone the last couple of summers to rent in the summertime. From like mid-June to Labor Day. And there's a butcher who I know from the years I lived there for many years in the Deal area, called M&A Butcher. She goes, go into M&A, speak to Meyer, tell him you want the spice. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah, just go in there and ask for the spice. I'm like, okay, I'll go in and ask for the spice. So I go into the butcher, and she goes, go into the back. So I go in the back where they're cutting the meats and all that. And there's a woman standing there that I know forever. And there's a guy standing over a big tub, filling up a bag with the spice. I said, somebody told me to come ask for the spice. And the woman, her name is Rochelle, turns to me, she goes, oh, that's what I'm getting. So she says, I can use it on so many things when I go back to Brooklyn in a couple of weeks. I'm like, really? It's that good? So I said, okay, when you're done, give me a bag. So I got a bag. It had a lot more in it before. I put some in here. And it's just called barbecue spice. And it's a mix of spices that they do over there. So Alana says just put it onto the brick roast and then let it cook. You know, put it on top of the onions. So I'm a little bit more of I like to do more of cooking than that. So I'm going to do that. I'm spicing it up right now. Putting it all over it. See? It's going all over it. It's reddish and spiced. There's definitely paprika in here. I thought there was brown sugar, but I don't think there is now because it doesn't seem to be sticking to anything. So I spice this up real well, and that's why I wear the gloves so that, you know, number one, I don't get my hands all over it. Number two, I don't get my hands all dirty. So whatever. Anyway, so there was a video. I'm going to go back to now. Now I'm going to go back to talking about vulnerability. So, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, this fantastic woman, who most of you probably have heard of, named Brene Brown, did a TED Talk about vulnerability. And it was as if she talked about vulnerability by taking it out of the closet. And I was so excited the first time I saw it, because that was something that I've always struggled with in my life. So I wrote an article about it, and I'm going to talk about it here. And the article, the blog was called, Be a Man Has No Meaning. So what am I talking about? When I was growing up in the 70s and in the 80s, I was born in 1962, so 60s, 70s, 80s, when I was growing up, it meant, be a man meant be tough, be macho, literally macho man. Be tough. Don't show your emotions. Don't show that you have feelings. Don't ask for help. And that was counterintuitive to who I was, because I was a very sensitive kid. So sensitive that in school I was picked on. I was teased. And today you would say I was even bullied. So far to the fact that, you know, when you're graduating, and in my case from 8th grade, and they make a page of last will and testament, and it's supposed to be funny. What did we leave this guy? What did we leave that guy? What did we leave that girl? And they put all these things that relate to the person. You know what they put for me? A box of Kleenex tissues. Why? Because I cried so much. They made me feel bad all the time. I was crying all the time. So when this article, when this TED Talk came out, I'd already gone through life coaching school, I'd already gone through my divorce, and I figured myself out a lot. And I think a lot of my sensitivity came from what happened when I was a kid, when my brother was killed when I was 10 years old, Michael, and me becoming a people pleaser, trying to please everybody. And I think it all was connected to each other. Because I'd come home crying, and I'd go in school, I'd go to my sister and go, "Oh, Vivian, they're picking on me." And she would cry with me, "There's nothing I can do for you." And my father would say, "Just laugh it off. Be tough, be a man." That was because he grew up in a different time than us. So when this TED Talk came out, I felt a little acknowledged and vindicated. Like somebody finally saw me. Somebody finally saw that it was okay to show your vulnerabilities. So, and I've been on some talks lately, talking with people about it, podcasts and different things. And it seems that it's becoming much more I'm talking about letting people to see your authenticity, your authentic side. I was trying to say authentic and authenticity at the same time. Let them see your authenticity. Let them see your foibles. Now, to be honest, that does not mean dump on them. That does not mean go and complain and tell them everything that's going wrong in your life and just dump on them. No, that's not what it means. It means show the people you care about your softer side, your vulnerable side, and say, "I need help. Can you help me with this?" It's okay to ask for help. And you know, this is something that I'm going to bring more into my practice, into my coaching practice. You can go alone, but you can't grow alone. So think about that. You need people around you to help you grow in whatever it is, business, life, anything. So that's my message here. Let yourself become vulnerable to the people that you care about around you. Now, you may meet somebody new and say, "Okay, I'm going to trust them and give them some of my vulnerability." And they may disappoint you. So then you know, don't give them any more of your vulnerability because they don't deserve it. Now, I'm going to add some carrots and celery to there to let them cook up a little bit as well. Don't forget, don't think I forgot about what I'm cooking. I didn't. So I'm going to let that cook up a little bit, let the onions continue to sweat down and saute, just to get them soft and everything before I put the roast in, okay? And then in a minute or so, I'm going to put in some more of the spice. I'm going to deglaze the pan. I like to use a Dutch oven, okay? This is my Dutch oven, okay? It's actually a large Dutch oven. It's great, L-O-D-G-E, large. And it's got a cover on it. It's fantastic. I love it. It really cooks things well, evenly, and all that. So the point is that it's okay, and you will be tested. There will be people who come around that you think you can trust, and you tell them things, and they don't help you. And I learned something. Over time, you'll either become, people will recognize what you're doing or expose you. And you have to decide what happens when that happens. How are you going to react to it? How are you going to feel about it? So for me, I've come a long way in that area. I've always been a very trusting person. But what happened to me is if you crossed me, that was it. You were dead. You were dead to me. Kind of like, in like the gangster movies. You're dead to me. Because if somebody decided that what I was trying to confide in them and be that vulnerable side, and they wanted to take advantage of it, I didn't want anything to do with them anymore. So I've learned, I've grown from there. I've learned, but I want to go back to a second and talk about something that very interesting happened a few years ago. So when I was growing up, there was a boy on my block. He literally is my oldest friend in the world. Why do I say oldest? Because we were 3, 4 years old. We lived on the same block. We were playing all the time. We went to school together. And one day, on LinkedIn, he sent me a message. He said, Martin, I have to ask you for your forgiveness. This was only a couple of years ago. He says, I realized that when we were kids, I was not good to you. I was bad. I don't remember the exact words, but I teased you and I was insensitive to you. And I just want to say, I'm sorry. I reached out to him and I said, thank you so much for that, but I forgave you a long time ago. And he was like, wow, what does that mean? I said, I've gone past it, but that you recognized it and seen it in yourself, I feel wonderful to hear that. And I'm so happy for you. That's for me, because I felt like what happened to me as a child was recognized by somebody who I cared about as a friend. And, he came across and he said, I'm sorry. And it was a few months later, and he thanked me so much for giving him for forgiving him. And, he said, afterwards, once that happened, he broke down a little more and said, I went through a lot of things as a child as well, and I didn't handle them well. And I took them out on other people, like you. And thank you for being such a big person and forgiving me. And I said, look, it's not about being a big person. I needed to forgive you more for myself than for you. And that showed him my vulnerability right there. And he was showing me his. And I appreciated him. And to this day, we're friends. And about 6 months later, after that happened, his father-in-law passed away. So I went to go make a shiva call to go in the Jewish community. When someone passes away, they sit for 7 days on the floor or low down, and they tear their clothes, and people come to visit them. So I went to go visit them when his father-in-law passed away, because I knew them my whole life. And we talked and we hugged at the end of it, and we said, we loved each other as friends, and we were so happy to have each other in our lives together. And that was really a defining moment as well. So it really was beautiful. And when I came home and told my wife, Sarita, about it, she was really moved about it. She was very touched and happy to hear that I was able to put those demons, as they were, behind me. Even though it helped him move forward his demons that he had. And that I didn't say, you know what? Yeah, you were a crappy guy. I didn't say any of that. I could have, but what would have I accomplished? I would have called him out and said, oh yeah, you really were something bad. Okay, I'm going to open this up to get some more. So now I put the spices in there to deglaze the pan. Okay, to deglaze it and to spice up the vegetables that are on the bottom. All right, and yeah, it looks like it needs a little more. Oh, I like a lot of spices. What can I say? I'm a spicy type of guy. So we'll put a little bit more in there from the bag. Almost out. I'm going to have to find out when I'm going to be able to go back to New Jersey. I was shocked. You were right. She goes, you got to put it on everything. You really do. But anyway, back to my friend. Really, I was so happy for him that he was able to put this behind him and move forward in his life. Because I could imagine that he was thinking, oh my God, I really hurt this guy. And I didn't have to. I didn't have to be that way. So I felt good about him. I felt good about me. And it goes to the whole talk about vulnerability. I'm sweating here. I'm just, guys, I know I'm going to get comments about it. It's really hot in this kitchen. What can I do? So that's what I wanted to tell you today, is that vulnerability is okay to be vulnerable, because you are going to become the authentic self, your authentic self to those people around you. And they will love you that much more because of it. So Thank you so much for joining me. Like my channel here. Click that give me your comments. Go to thewarriorslifecoach.com. Go to connectwithmartin.com. You can get some freebies there and stuff. And tell me what you like. Tell me what you want to hear more about. I love doing this stuff. And by the way, I'm going to put this in the oven for about an hour and a half or so at 175 uncovered, because that's the way Alana told me to make it. So I do it the way the people tell me to do it until I decide differently. Like I added vegetables and I added other things. But anyway, have a great day. Enjoy life. Be high on life. Live incredibly full every day. And Shabbat Shalom.